guys, I'm here with Zippy. He's a chinchilla. Chinchillas are native to the Andes Mountains. In fact, the name chinchilla actually means little chincha, which they got from tribal people that lived there and would hunt the chinchillas for the fur. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about chinchillas today and how they are perfectly adapted to live in a really harsh mountain environment. So Zippy's a domestic chinchilla, which means he's slightly different from a wild one, but they have like lots of things in common. So I'm going to have him be a little ambassador for his species here for a minute. So first of all, a little bit about the Andes Mountains where chinchillas live. They live between 9,000 and 16,000 feet high in the mountains. Just to give you an idea of how high that is, our local Wasatch Mountains, the highest point is about 11,900 feet. So they live a little bit higher up than our highest point in our mountains here. So you can imagine sort of like how cold and harsh it is. In fact, there's not a lot to eat, mostly just grasses and shrubs, which is what they eat. Here at home, Zippy eats mostly hay and food pellets, but he occasionally eats things like grapes. That's what he's got right now. They're his favorite. They also eat seeds and nuts, and very sparingly. So let's talk a little bit about how they're engineered to live in this very cold, very harsh environment. So I'm going to zoom in on him real quick while he finishes his grapes. You can see his dark eyes. They are nocturnal, so these dark eyes help them see. Big ears that help regulate their body temperature. You can see his little feet. I call them his little alien feet. Those are actually great for jumping on rocks and boulders, which is where they live. They often burrow into the rocks. And they don't have claws. Their claws are actually more like fingernails, which is cool because you don't get scratched when you hold them. And he's gonna go. Hey guy, what you doing? They're also exceptionally good jumpers, which is perfect if you live on rocks. So their bodies are very well adapted to jumping. And then lastly, I'm gonna zoom in here, like very, very soft fur. The Chinchilla people who lived in the Andes actually hunted them for their fur, and they're still very much hunted for their fur today, which actually has caused them to be an endangered species. Chinchillas are a rodent, but unlike other rodents, they don't really breed that quickly. They have between 2 and 6 little kits, little babies, and usually it's 2. More than that, it's considered a pretty big litter. So when you think about them as an endangered species, trying to repopulate them, even if we stopped hunting them, would be very difficult to do. A little bit more about this fur. It is the thickest fur of any animal on Earth. It's extremely soft, extremely warm, which is great if you live in the Andes Mountains where it's cold. He actually takes a bath in dust. You can't get him wet. Otherwise his fur kind of grows mold and it doesn't dry out very well, and it becomes a bit of a problem to get him wet. So that is a chinchilla. And so I want to wrap this video up. I want to talk a little bit about having them as a pet. Obviously he's very cute, but there are some things you should probably know before you go out and adopt one. There he goes jumping. Very good jumpers. So one thing about them, they are very high energy. As you can see, since he quit eating his raisin, he has not stopped moving at all. So very high energy. His cage is actually bigger than this vanity. It takes up a ton of space, and it takes me an hour once a week to clean it at minimum. Longer if I actually want to clean it. So definitely like a big commitment of time and space. His little carrier that it's my daughter's little toy carrier that we sometimes carry him around in. So it takes up a ton of space. He has a huge exercise wheel that's the size of a large pizza. So when you get an idea of how big of a cage minimum you would need to fit that kind of an exercise wheel in, it's quite a large piece of space. Other things you ought to know about them. They are herd animals. They are herd animals in the wild. They live in herds of about 100 or more. So ideally, when you adopt a chinchilla, you want to adopt 2 of them. Now, I didn't know this when I adopted Zippy, so he ended up being alone. So if you adopt one solo, like Zippy, you want to make sure that you give them lots of love and attention. Otherwise, they're going to get lonely and sad. So they definitely require, I let him out every day. He requires quite a bit of time and attention. They eat hay, so if you or someone you live with is allergic to hay, not a great idea. Could end up being problematic. Additionally, they take a bath in dust, so everything you own is going to get covered in a nice layer of dust. And they can live for up to 20 years, so they are definitely a long-term daily commitment for our pets. Another thing about them is they are relentless chewers. Zippy chews on everything. He's chewed up my books, my shoes. He's chewed up zippers on my clothes. He's chewed up the wall. In fact, this right here is his handiwork. You can see very destructive with their chewing. And he's still a baby. He's only about 8 months, so he's definitely chew all the time. So definitely I'm actually going to have to replace a lot of the furniture in my room to be chinchilla proof so that my stuff doesn't keep getting chewed. That being said though, there are some things about them that are like fantastic. I actually really love having him as a pet. He is super fun. If you are willing to put in the time and effort, you are going to get a very good companion. I actually adopted Zippy to replace a cat that I had that had died, and I loved that cat, so Zippy had some very big paws to feel when he arrived here at my house after the cat had died, and he's definitely lived up to that. Let's see, where'd you go, Boo? He's definitely lived up to that. He's been a great companion. They're very snuggly, very sociable. They like to interact with people. He's actually really smart. He does answer to his name and comes when he's called. So that's kind of a cool feature. Is they've got a little bit going on for them that they can learn tricks and answer to their name and stuff. So yeah, if you're willing to put in the time and effort, they are fantastic pets. So that's all I have on Zippy. Hopefully you guys enjoyed meeting him. He's trying to climb up on my shoulder because he's like, what is going on? So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed meeting him, and hopefully this was a good learning experience to know about the Andes animals.